forward and backwards. You're already in kind of a natural position. If you go wider, suddenly it's a little harder to get yourself moving forward and backwards, but much like the square stance, you've got more rotational power available to you. You can drive your body side to side more. So narrow or wide, you're going to vary that depending on what you're intending to accomplish. Longer for stability, and for power and for smaller targets. By longer, I mean front to back. So if you're here, you can make your targets very small. You can take a charge. You're really stable. You've got a brace. Shorter, like this, you've got more steps. So when I'm like this, how far can I step forward? Not very far. When I'm like this, if I relax, I can take a good stride from there, or I can even pass through easier. So wider for stability, being smaller for targets, shorter for being able to step more. One last variation of a right lead stance is you can do more of a boxer stance, and actually, instead of bracing this back leg back like this, you can come up on the toe. Remember, toe and knee stay in line still. So you turn the toe and the knee and come up on the toe. Interesting thing about this stance, allows you to rock back and cover. You've got something to push off with when you're throwing shots. Downside of the stance is it's very unstable side to side, and you're under tension all the time, which can be tiring depending on your physical conditioning. But it does give you a nice springboard to throw shots from. So we're talking symmetry here. We talked about a right lead stance. We've got to talk about a left lead stance, and this is where the SCA all came from, was the left lead stance pretty much. So left lead stance, some kind of thing like this with your left leg forward. We've got more power for our onside shots. We've got this big windup available to us to deliver our onside shots. Good maneuverability, just like the right lead stance. More freedom when you're in close to your opponent. So here's my opponent. I'm right up here against him. I still got lots of room to move my sword around back here, no problem. Shield is easy to hold. With a left lead stance, shield can rest right against my body if I want, rest against the hip. Anywhere in here, it's just hanging in a natural position. It's not being held out here in the middle of nowhere. So it's easier on the shield arm. And it's easier to block offside shots because now I'm facing my offside. Come around there, it's right in front of me. Weaknesses of a left lead stance. Less power for offside shots. I don't have this big wind up on this side. Less sword reach. Now, I've lost the width of my shoulders. I can compensate for that some with body rotation, but it's still not the same as being able to turn my shoulders all the way this way. Left leg, the near leg to a right-handed opponent, is a really easy target for them now. It's very close, which means I've got to pay more attention to blocking that leg. And it's more awkward to block onside shots. They throw over here, I've got to twist to this awkward spot if I want to sword block an onside shot. I'm not facing the shot anymore. Variations are exactly the same as they were for the right lead stance. You've got narrow and wide, long and short, and they have the same effects on your ability to rotate or move back and forth. In fact, this springboard, the boxing springboard, is even more effective for the left lead because you've got the spring on the same side as your sword hand. You're left-handed, I got a bad habit. I talk right and left-handed. You just have to translate. Yeah. Just bring it that way. All right, so let's start talking about sword stuff. I like to have the little footwork thing. One, because there's some universal rules in there. I really like to get that knee and toe thing across to people. But mostly we're going to be talking about swords today. So, lines of attack. We're going to start out with generalities, and we're going to focus in over the course of the class and get into details. In fact, I'm going to lie to you a little bit. I'm going to be real general about some things. Like, here's the universal rule, and then later we're going to say, well, that was true except in this particular case. So we'll narrow in on things. So four zones or lines of attack. We've got high outside, high inside, low outside, low inside. We don't really. That's really how it would be if we were facing our opponent. We more think about for now about our personal zones for our guards, our guards. So that's what we're going to talk about more. So we've got high right. So over on your sword side, anywhere up here, on the shoulder, up in the air, wherever, something up in this zone. We'll talk about it being in the high right. High left. It's going to be over this zone. It could be on the shoulder. It could be up here. We've got low right, so that's anywhere back in here somewhere. And low left, that's anywhere down in here. here. I say I'm being very general here because there's lots of perfectly valid ways to hold your sword in each of these zones. But from each zone, the way we move and the way we generate force will be pretty much the same no matter which of those particular spots you started in. So we're going to talk in generalities. Oh, and high center. Somewhere up in here. Could be like this, could be like that. So we have 4 angles of attack based on where these blows are starting from. So we've got horizontal shots, things that come across. We've got vertical shots coming straight up and down. Or actually, as we start to apply these, it'll be almost straight up and down. And we've got diagonal shots. That's things along the diagonals in both directions. Obviously, although we might train this diagonal, if the actual opening was more at this angle, that's the angle we throw at. So it's generality again. We learn the basic motion, and that'll allow us to focus it in on the specific. In my notes, there's a long lecture on how we name things, so that we have an easy way of explaining what we're doing physically, but we're not going to talk about that in class. All right, so we're going to go to the 5 guards, which are taken pretty much right out of the 133 manuscript. They illustrate 7, but we'll start with just 5 of them. So we kind of went through them in a way already. High right is going to be, in the manual it's right here on the shoulder, but really anywhere in here is good. The sword tip is back, but the hand is near the high right. High left is going to be over here. Low left could be all the way up here, could be down here. And low right is going to be down here.